most of the AI stuff, they can only generate images at HD resolution. So far, everything that you see is actually only good for social media.
Right.
So they're using the excuse of the strike to get rid of the people, the excuse of the AI to lay off because there are no jobs, because there's no money. You should ask ILM, you should ask Weta Digital, all the 6 top VFX companies, ask them if they are busy or not.
Right.
The companies which are good, they are very good and they're actually hiring. We are hiring as well.
This is Connected Sidelines, coming to you from the heart of Taipei, a show in which we get personal on news and issues that connect us all in Taiwan and around the world. I'm Divya Gopalan.
And I'm Billie Sweetman. Now, I don't know about you, but working on Connected and hearing a lot about tech, the world can feel a bit scary with all this talk of AI taking our jobs and laying waste to even creative industries. But here in Taiwan, someone's not only weathering this storm, but inadvertently doing pretty well from it.
That's right. And he's Christoper Chen, executive producer of Taipei-based Reno Studios, a production company specializing in VFX. And he's here to tell us how he's doing it. So, Christoper, firstly, tell us about Reno Studios.
It's pretty much one of the largest VFX companies and computer animation studios in Taiwan. Over the course of these last 5 years, we've got 3 Golden Horse Awards and 2 Asian Film Awards as well.
Yeah, Reno Studios is doing great. And I feel like people don't really know how much of a big deal Taiwan is in VFX, because I remember from the interview we did with you previously, you talked about all the Hanna-Barbera stuff in the 1980s.
I think that the history of the Taiwan film industry and the television industry is divided into 2 parts. You have the history from Ang Lee, Ho Xiaoshen, Edward Yang, all doing the art house films. But then a lot of people forget the whole history about what everybody does for a living, the bread and butter stuff, doing animated shows for American cartoons. I think mainly because it was a long time ago. Taiwan was part of the American pipeline to provide the inking and coloring for Saturday morning cartoons for Hanna-Barbera. Taiwan had a lot of that kind of history that was shared among Philippines, Japan, South Korea. Like if you see a lot of those Saturday morning cartoons, they designed a lot of stuff in North America, and they came to Japan, came to South Korea, came to Taiwan to finish off the animation, because the process of doing everything in North America was very expensive.
And then there was a lull in between. But are we seeing the same kind of pattern now when it comes to the VFX industry?
Yes and no, because that pattern was repeating in English-speaking countries. They want to go to countries with a lot of tax credits. Usually when you see a show like X-Files, Stargate, Smallville, they always have to go to places with that have strong tax incentives. So they always go to Canada, Australia, the UK, to London, to Ireland. And that pattern moved to South Africa, to Prague, which has become very global.
Okay, let's bring it to modern day now. Fast forward, and we're seeing that Taiwan is once again becoming kind of a hub in certain ways when it comes to certain aspects of filmmaking or film production.
By accident.
By accident.
You can thank Trump for that. Whatever happened after Trump took over the presidency last year, there's a lot of people getting deported and all the tariffs going on. It made the United States a very scary place. So what happens is that a lot of the people who used to work in the film business, especially in visual effects, they start to suddenly to understand that not every guy that's very good in visual effects is American. And if you look and understand the last 20, 30 years, all the Taiwanese people that used to work in the VFX business, they're all back home.
They've returned.
Yeah.
They've come back to Taiwan.
Yes.
Amazing.
It's not only the Taiwanese, the South Koreans, the Japanese, the Europeans. Los Angeles became a ghost town as of result of the labor strikes that happened with the SAG after the WGA and the fires in LA that happened last year as well. And also because there is a kind of dismantling of the whole film business, especially accelerated by AI now. So everybody feel a little bit on the defensive. So they all have to came back at the request of the families as well.
Yeah, this is sounding terrible for America, but kind of great for Taiwan and the rest of Asia.
Yeah, because it's kind of funny because when the people came back, some of the visual effects companies, the big companies that got rid of them, they actually came back and they called us and said, yeah, do you have that person? Yeah, we have that person. See, why can't we send subcontract some work to you guys? And say, well, but can't you find? Say, no, they got rid of everybody. There's nobody left in the States because everything is very expensive by 3-4 times. The living cost of living in LA is 3 to 4 times here. Even though they have a tax credit of 35%, they have a discounting on tax rebate, we're still much cheaper after we're putting a full pricing here in Taipei. It's a very awkward moment kind of thing. Mm-hmm. We're thriving at the expense of somebody else's screw up.
It's happening with governments all over the world.
Yeah.
It's all politically motivated. But I want to come back to the idea of Taiwan thriving or the industry thriving in this part of the world. In particular, one of your projects, I believe, which was Jishan, which I think the English title is Agent from Above. Can you tell us about that? I believe that was on Netflix and one of the most expensive productions.
It's a very odd story but then everything coincided to the fact that the very quick rundown, okay? You guys have heard of a little show called Squid Game.
Of that tiny show, yes.
You have the after effects of Squid Game, where obviously it helped boost the film industry in Korea, along with Parasite that won the Oscar. But technically, South Korea, they became the victim of their all success, where a show like from Netflix, it pretty much skyrocketed all the salaries in South Korea. So all of a sudden, you have this kind of parallel universe between the South Korea film industry, and then you have the Netflix Korean shows. You have the salaries of the Korean film industry is that way, and then you have the salaries of the Netflix Korea at that way. So basically, it created this kind of discrepancy about how everybody's getting paid. And guess what? Guess how many people in Korea wants to get paid by the Korean film industry versus the amount of people that wants to get paid by the Netflix shows. It's not only Squid Game. You have shows like The Kingdom. That's the zombie thing that happened to be.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of romantic comedies in South Korea as well. So the salaries of the Netflix shows, they became as expensive as if you're paying for a salary in Los Angeles.
Right.
So I cannot answer for people from Netflix, but let's just say that the streamers like Disney Plus, Netflix, they took some, and very soon Amazon, they took some thought about how to rebalance the budget in the Asia Pacific, because sure, you can have shows like House of Dragon. One episode cost $15 million. One episode. Guess how much one episode of a show from Netflix Taiwan would cost? It would cost probably $1 million. And if you look at the typical budget from a Taiwanese film, $2 million. Obviously, it's not only Taiwan. I think you can see the examples happening all over in Southeast Asia, like in Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, because we are in the Asia Pacific circle. Obviously, Netflix, they added 1+1. I'd say it made far more sense to rebalance the budget and put extra more money into Taiwan, Thailand, Japan, and cool a little bit down the South Korea market.
Are Taiwanese production companies aiming higher and achieving bigger? Agent from Above looks much more expensive.
I think we're talking about two different apples and oranges. I think Agent from Above was something that was planned since 2019.
So before COVID, wow.
It was way before COVID. I think Agent from Above is a very special type of animal where they've shot a kind of a half-hour, 10-minute pilot. They went to test a little bit, and they see, yeah, it can go somewhere. And all of a sudden, they went ahead to do the show during the COVID, and all of a sudden, everybody heard the accident that one of the leads had the drone hit in their face, and the show had to stop, and then they had to wait another 6 to 8 months for them to have this facial reconstruction, and then they had to rework on the show. They had to hire new leads because they couldn't waste time. But then at the same time, when they finished the show, something happened, because then the staff at Netflix in Taiwan realized that the show was way bigger than they thought, because the show actually had 2,700 shots in VFX, something that was never ever touched in Taiwan in history. And then they punched the numbers and they asked my partner that's not here, and he's actually on set doing another show for Netflix. And I say, well, how long is it going to take to get all these 2,700 shots? It's going to take about a year.
Wow.
Well, actually, it took 2 years actually to do that. So if you add the stuff, if you compound what happened between the accident and the 2 years to do, voila, the show is finally going into air, but it's giving this kind of air of anxiety, because every single most important actor, all the cast, is in Agent of Above. I think Agent of Above is being presented as the calling card of Taiwan to the rest of the world. It's pretty much the most expensive show in Taiwan now.
But expensive because of basically the narrative that, of what's happened on the scene or behind the scenes. Not necessarily, it wasn't planned that way originally.
A little bit of everything. But obviously everybody has this kind of wishful thinking that's going to be another Squid Game kind of thing. But they're hoping that it's going to be a big regional hit that can hit in a more global way, because they think that the elements, that the fantastical elements that it can have is a very attractive element for the global market.
I'd like to talk about AI, because
Sure.
I mean, it must be affecting VFX as well, I think, because there are so many VFX platforms out there that can generate all this, all this amazing stuff that was impossible 10 years ago. So is it making your life more difficult?
First, to correct, AI was actually used for the first time in Lord of the Rings to do the crowds, the battles. The only reason why AI is scaring people, because AI is finally going to the consumer market. Before, it was something that was restricted to that particular market with a very small bunch of computer programmers that could do all this kind of, if you see all those battle scenes in Dune, Lord of the Rings, that require masses of crowds with huge amount of soldiers battling around.
I always wondered how they did that.
That's done by computer graphics. But we're still doing that more than normal, because we're doing that on a daily way. So dealing with the AI was a normal thing for us, okay? But what is scary is because right now this kind of technology is being simplified for the consumer market in order to everybody to have access. Any technology that is being introduced that's something new, obviously it's going to scare people. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of layoffs on that. But at the same time, I need to remind people, when during the 80s, they created something called Microsoft Word. And everybody was afraid that it was going to take away jobs. But just because you're very good at Microsoft Word, it doesn't make you as a good writer.
That line of argument, yes, I absolutely agree. And also, same was said about the horse and carriages, and then moving to automobile and vice versa, steam and, engine. But the one thing I think that concerns many people is, yes, not necessarily the use of AI, but, producers, studio, production houses that are working with VFX teams suddenly are starting to assume, hey, we can make this much cheaper with AI. Is there concern that, it's taking the power out of the VFX? It's one thing for the creator to make that decision.
I think what's happening is that this is putting the so-called the hour of the truth, like you're revealing the mask about who is actually a film producer and who's not. I can tell you the example. The people from Netflix and our clients, they're actually asking us to start using AI, and we don't have a problem about that. Actually, we are embracing AI from the very beginning. But there is a big difference, because, yes, you can see a lot of stuff coming from YouTube and Instagram, but like everything else, it's like you see the beginning of the internet 1.0. You have this kind of internet bubble. Did you realize that 90% of the websites that you see during the 90s was a piece of junk, right? The same thing what you see a lot of these AI things, which 90% is done by a bunch of kids that's just punching a lot of things. And all they're doing is just doing fan fiction about Batman versus Bruce Lee and Brad Pitt punching
There's a Tom Cruise, yeah.
Tom Cruise thing. And I can bet you that all the 6 studios are going to they already send a cease and desist letter because you're stealing 10,000 hours of Blu-ray data and DVDs. You're stealing all the data, and basically you're not creating anything. I have to make a discernment about what some people is using for creativity and what people are doing just stealing data and using nothing for the imagination. Netflix and us, we are actually have been using AI for a lot of, but we just don't tell people what we are using because we actually have programmers doing that. I don't know whether you guys are using Sora but you guys notice that it's very good to show an image, but it's incredibly hard to do revisions. This is an industry that you need to do 20 to 30 revisions to fix stuff on the time. And the current tools, it's really hard to do precise revisions. The current technology like Sora, Google, VO, Free, Kling, it's actually very good to do pre-visualization. It's doing the previews and saving time to do design, okay, to do conceptual design. So it's saving a lot of time to do that. The company that Ben Affleck, that Netflix bought, like Interpositive, they're doing the Marvel method way. Like you're shooting hours and hours of footage and you go for a rough cut and then you show to the people what has been edited so far, right? And usually we have the so-called the Marvel method about fixing stuff. So they all go back 1 or 2 weeks to reshoot everything.
To reshoot it?
Yeah, because technically every single Marvel film, they have to go for approximately 1 to 2 weeks of reshoots. There's a missing shot here, that's something that's missing. You're missing a lot of gaps. So basically they regroup everybody according to the they bring the actors back and they have to pick up inserts kind of thing. And instead of bringing everybody back, they shoot hours of footage ahead of the time and they bring it into AI and they fix that inside the AI instead of asking everybody to go back on set.
And that saves a tremendous amount of cost.
Because you're not bringing 25 people on set. All that you have is having 3 kids that are very good. One guy who's a very good programmer, another guy who's a very good editor, and he doesn't know much about AI, but he knows very much about continuity. But they're being using limits because a lot of people, the resolution that the data centers, it's very hard to do things at the 2K resolution. Most of the AI stuff, they can only generate images at HD resolution. So far, everything that you see is actually only good for social media.
Right.
So they're using the excuse of the strike to get rid of the people. They're also using the excuse of the AI to lay off because there are no jobs, because there's no money. You should ask ILM, you should ask Weta Digital, all the 6 top VFX companies, ask them if they are busy or not.
Right.
The companies which are good, they are very good and they're actually hiring. We are hiring as well.
Well, I think a big reason about why I moved from London to Taipei was because I was trying to find jobs in television. I was getting dribs and drabs of work here and there, but it wasn't enough to pay my rent, basically. And everyone was asking the same question: how do I get a foot in the door? So yeah, what would you say you're doing as a CEO to kind of prepare the next generation?
Basically, the link to AI for this would be the fact that a lot of entry-level jobs are being taken away by AI. Is that happening? And I guess it's in your industry also?
It's happening everywhere. It's not that we're putting a mask and ignoring that. Of course, there is the problem, but we're actually hiring a lot of new people into the business as well.
Even without experience?
Here's the difference. I think what happened over the course of these last 24 months is very crucial. I can just give an example. A typical day that we would do, like you take a film script, your job is to do a script breakdown about what VFX scenes, how many locations that you would put, how many actors that you have to put, how many sets you have to design. If you are learning the production management, you have to understand how to do a script breakdown, right? And you push the kid to do everything by hand, because that's the first thing, because you have to ingrain in your brain how to do that, okay? And the normal sequence says you can do that, and then there's a software that everybody knows in the film that's called Movie Magic, that you put everything and then you put everything into Movie Magic, right? If you were going to do a 120-page breakdown of that script, it would take approximately 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a new program called Film Use Stage. It's an AI program that automates that. Currently, if you put that into Film Use Stage and then you bring the file back to Movie Magic, it approximately takes 6 hours.
Wow. So the 2 weeks of work that entry-level person would have been hard to do is now down to 6 hours.
What I'm suggesting is that I think there's a huge discrepancy about what's being taught on schools and what needs to be updated right away, because I think, yes, people are hiring, but they're hiring with people with the outdated skills. I think what is the suggestion is that they need to have a certain kind of a special program to adapt, because how long it took on the schools to adopt Adobe Photoshop in fine arts, right? Because people were using pencils and paints and so on. And after that, it took about 2-3 years to understand that Photoshop is not a danger. Actually, it's a compliment about doing that. The AI thing is not going to think for itself. You still need a human input. The only difference that it does things faster. It can either do good things faster, and it can do a lot of garbage much faster. But the good thing about doing garbage fast is because also you see what's going on, you can pretty much fix that very quickly. So the whole thing about AI is not so much taking your job, but is doing your job faster. And essentially is allowing the person to make the mistake faster as well. That's the most important thing.
So you think there's still scope for young people?
As long as they're giving the right curriculum, yes. A lot of stuff that AI is doing is taking a lot of stuff that was going to be, it's a no-brainer. It's done a lot of
But that's usually how you enter a job, right?
Yeah.
When you have no experience, you're doing the stuff that's repetitive.
You have to do the grand job, because you send the kid the first job. Of course, he's not going to be a talent agent right away. You're going to send the kid to the mailroom, right? But rather than you sorting out the mailroom by hand, which you have to do, but then so in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you have to train the person how to do the things directly with AI. I think people were just tired of doing these menial mechanical jobs, but then it forces you to actually be a real, actual creative.
You just have to step up sooner.
You step sooner. It's putting you pressure, because everything that you look good, it doesn't look amazing. It doesn't look bad. Everything looks average, because it's taking picture of that, picture of that, picture of that, and it's averaging everything.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, it's forcing you to have taste.
Taiwan at the moment, as you said, is definitely riding that wave of VFX production, and the industry is gaining some momentum. Where do you see it heading, and how do you think Taiwan can keep that momentum going, given that earlier in the conversation we talked about it was a confluence of factors that probably weren't so great in the US that allowed this to happen?
Well, I think basically the market forces that it used to have these big conglomerates like Warner, that's disappearing, it's becoming Paramount, Skydance, Disney, Netflix. Obviously, they need content that even the studios, they're not able to do. So basically, they're not going to gamble and risk $50 million, $30 million. So it's becoming a new environment when you have new independent filmmakers that are going to take a risk creating new films, but with cheaper technology. So basically, you're not at the mercy of a chief of a studio that's going to tell you how to copycat a movie with $200 million and that has zero creativity, because it's making something an investment safe, but it's becoming the same stupid movie that people don't care to see it anymore. While everybody say, "Oh, I'm losing my job," but actually, it's actually a good opportunity for people to take a chance in order to, if you want to prove that you have a place in the sun. I think right now it doesn't take you can pretty much take your your phone that has the same kind of resolution like a 4K image. You can use that for feeding the data to your AI and create your film.
So bringing it back to Taiwan, keeping the momentum in the film industry, what would, in a nutshell, what is your advice?
A lot of people are just in kind of a despair. Oh my God, I don't have a job. Actually, it's kind of opposite. I think the tools are here. Just use it and believe in yourself, thinking that there's going to be a time that things will pop up and things will improve, actually. There's always been this kind of thing. When TV came out, everybody think that movie business was going to be destroyed. When the VHS came out, everybody thought the movie was going to be destroyed. And here we are, we're still doing things, right? Maybe we're watching films in a different way, but I think as long as that you are part of the creative community, you're developing something that people are going to see it, I think this is the good opportunity for Taiwan to be it. Because the fact that Taiwan has this kind of, they have an upper hand in doing the semiconductors, and we have these big AI centers, and we have the people already, the people that used to have work experience in LA. I think people should take advantage of that and put a stake in your place, and because the next 5 years is going to be very important, actually.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Chris
you.
Chen, executive producer of Reno Studios.
Thank you, you guys.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris. But what do you, our audience, think? Are we really witnessing the end of conventional TV? Let us know in the comments below.
And while you're there, do check out our main show that's connected on Taiwan Plus. You can find us on our YouTube channel and the Taiwan Plus website. I'm Divya Gopalan.
And I'm Billie Sweetman.
Till the next time.
Thanks for joining us.